This podcast is brought to you by Most Valuable Podcasts, leading the league in podcasting entertainment.
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages. This is the Fast Break Podcast. I'm your host, Sean Anderson. Alongside me, as always, is Ricky Widmer.
What's up, guys?
And Dave Oster.
Hey, everybody.
And today we're going to be talking about the Denver Nuggets. Mike Malone calling them soft after their loss to the Clippers. We'll talk about, are they too soft to make a deep playoff run? Then we'll talk about Zion Williamson. Can he lead the Pelicans to the 8th seed? They're currently 2 games back of the Memphis Grizzlies. They're 8-6 when Zion plays, so we'll see if that record will be good enough to take them into the playoffs this year. Then we'll talk about Wet Boys. We have someone coming for the crown after some great performances over the past 2 months. We'll talk about who that is and who they're coming for. And finally, the final topic, we'll talk about the Warriors, and we'll get back into some draft topics. They right now have the worst record. They'll at least have a top 5 pick this year. They'll have some great odds to get a top 3 pick as well. We'll talk about that, what they should do, and what direction they should go in if that happens. Before we get into all of that, we are currently live on twitch.tv/mostvaluablepodcast. If you want to watch us live, if you want to be involved with our show, go over to twitch.tv/mostvaluablepodcast. We got Kingy and Sam right now very active in the chat. We got 8 others watching along, so we'd love if you came and joined us each and every week. We're typically live on Saturdays at noon Central Time. Also, don't forget to check us out on patreon.com/mostvaluablepodcast. Typically, we have a Patreon once a week to come on, talk about a topic of their choosing for, a whole segment. We love to shoot the shit with our patrons, and it's super fun. You guys had Bilal on last week, and it was a great topic.
Jake was threatening to come on this week, but I think he got a little too upset last night and vented a lot of frustrations during our watch-along segment.
And I wish that was recorded.
Oh, as do I. It was something.
That would have been great. But anyways, shout out to all of our patrons. You can see them on the screen. Alexis, Bilal, Batalio, and etc. The screen was gone for me, so I was not able to read all of them.
If you want to read all of them,
okay.
I'll put them back up for you.
But shout out to everybody who was on the screen. There's a reason why we have the screen, because we have so many great people that help support us. Yep. So shout out to all of those people at patreon.com/mostvaluablepodcast. All right, let's get into it. Mike Malone, my guy.
Yep. Your guy.
Yeah, my guy.
Your guy.
My guy. Come on, I think I had him probably ranked the highest in our coaches' rankings.
Probably.
I have the Nuggets hat. Yep. I've been clamoring the praise for Nikola Jokic for 3 years now.
Yeah.
And not my favorite team. I love the Nuggets. I think that they are one of the most fun teams to watch, one of the more unique teams to watch in the NBA. But Mike Malone made a couple headlines last night after the Nuggets lost last night, 132-103 to the Clippers. Mike Malone called the team soft, and Nuggets guard Monte Morris said that if the team wanted to take the next step towards being a title contender, we can throw it out the window if we ain't going to show up in these games. Here's the full quote from Malone before we get into the actual topic of are they too soft to make a deep playoff run. He said, "We were soft tonight from beginning to end. They didn't feel us on either end. They got whatever they wanted. We could run offense because they took it out of our stuff, and we were just allowed them to do it for 48 minutes. They're a good team, but I'm very disappointed in our competitive spirit and effort tonight." Shout out Mike Malone using a Jim Boylan quote there, our competitive spirit. And this kind of plays into a larger issue for the Nuggets. The Nuggets have suffered 8 losses this season by double digits, and all but 1 were on the road. But 5 of those losses were against top 8 conference teams. So not a good look for the Nuggets. Dave, I'm going to ask you.
Sure.
Because I got to take my bias out of here. Because clearly, I love the Nuggets.
You do.
And this is a team right now that is still second in the West, tied with the Clippers. At least, they're both 6 game backs of the Lakers. But right now, ESPN standings have the Nuggets, I believe, with the tiebreaker. They're currently in second with a 40-19 record. Clippers also have a 40-19 record, but they have them in second place right now. Do you think the Nuggets are too soft to make a deep playoff run? Because we talked about them possibly being too young last year. Do you think that maybe we're getting out of this too young idea and now coming into a too soft idea? Do you think that Mike Malone's comments have weight?
I think soft is not the word that I would use to describe them. I agree with a lot of people when I see the Nuggets as a regular season team. They have great depth. They've got a ton of younger kids on this team, and they've got a unique offensive system that gives them something that no other team in the NBA has. And in the regular season, when you're going up against a different team every night, it makes it very hard to game plan against a team that's going to come at you in a different way than every other team in the NBA. So while they'll excel in the regular season against top teams, it takes one thing to throw a wrench in this entire offense. And as soon as you slow down that offense, their defense, their hustle, everything starts to grind up the gears and it starts to go downhill. So soft, not necessarily the word I would use to describe them, but I definitely see them as a team that has a very easy plan, that can be put in place to stop them. And unless they have somebody step up massively, a la Jamal Murray, like having a absolutely clutch game like he was maybe 4 weeks ago, where he just had a string of games of 30 plus on incredible true shooting percentages, making the right passes. You need a second guy to make plays because Jokic on his own is not enough to get anything done.
Ricky, I'm going to ask the same question. Do you think they're too soft?
I got 2 words to describe the Denver Nuggets. White bread.
That's me.
To me, that is usually what we say about you, but that's another, like, when you were like, I wouldn't say soft, I'm going to go ahead and say soft. And it's not the soft that we're used to thinking about. We're like, yes, this team is going to come to play, but when you look at the other teams around them, look at the Lakers, look at the Clippers, even look at the Rockets and the Jazz right now, the Mavericks. These are all teams that I look at, and actually, fuck it, I'm going to say the Thunder and the Grizzlies have it too. Everyone in the West has it. They have either what Kingy said, that it factor, or they have their main guys on their team have a drive that gets kicked into a second gear. With the Lakers, it's AD and LeBron. With the Clippers, it's Kawhi when he gets kicking, or when Paul George gets kicked into that second gear, they're almost untouchable. You've got the Jazz this year with Donovan Mitchell when he's able to go in that second gear. Russ and Harden with the Rockets. Luka with the Mavericks. CP3 this year with the Thunder. John Morant with the Grizzlies. Everyone's got that. And I just don't see it with the Nuggets. Like, I look at this team, and I'm going to say something that might be a hot take, but I'm going to say it now. If they match up with the Mavericks, who would be their matchup this year in the first round, they're getting bounced in the first round. They're not even getting past the Mavericks if they continue to play the way they're playing, because a team like Dallas, they've played 2 games so far this year, they got 2 more to go. When it was just Luka, you won by 1 point. When it was Luka and KP out there, they got beat. Yes, it was a close game. It was a 3-point game. But I think that even if they play a team like the Mavericks, who's a 7 seed, the Mavericks can take them to 6 or 7 and end up sending them home way early than any of us thought they would be.
Ricky, I feel like you missed an easy layup in this segment. You could have Enzo Moore right there.
Yeah, I'm
right
so
off
glad
the
he
bat.
didn't. I'm so glad
I got one word to describe this team. I'm gonna spell it out for you.
Please don't. I'm really glad he didn't do that, because that would have been cheesy.
I honestly
and corny
expected
as
that to
hell.
happen like right away.
I did as well. And when he said whatever,
words?
yeah, 2 words. Yeah, I was glad.
Suck it.
The Mavericks thing, I don't know. I disagree with that mainly because I do think that if we're comparing the rosters, I think Jokic is a better player than Doncic right now. Doncic long term, easily it's going to be Luka. I think Jokic knows his game better, and I think that he has a more efficient game, at least when it comes to the playoffs. You saw what Jokic did last year in the playoffs. And I don't want to put a cap on Luka because, Jesus Christ, I mean,
he's in his second year in the NBA,
and he's doing what he's doing, and then also we saw what he did in the EuroLeague playoffs. Yeah. So I don't really want to cap that. I'll take Jokic right now, but even then, KP is a more consistent performer than anybody else on the Nuggets, at least outside of Jokic. But the depth there for the Nuggets is there. They have great defense that could show up in Paul Millsap, in Jeremy Grant. And you brought up the defense part, and I don't know if it's necessarily true. I mean, they started off the season as one of the best defensive teams in the league. Right now, they're 10th in defensive rating. I still think that they can have nights where they could be defensively great.
It's just the backcourt is my concern with them, because we've seen hit or miss on the wing from Gary Harris. His defense, like I get his shooting kind of fell off a cliff, and that's fine. Like it'll happen from year in, year out. But defensively, that's the one thing you could count on him for. And then the backcourt wise, when you get down to it, like if you look at the West and you talk about all the guards, like literally the only team without a guard who can attack. I don't even know if there is one in the Western playoffs right now. Like the only way it would be is if the Pelicans, and we'll talk about later, made it strive up into the playoffs. Every other team in the West playoffs has a guard who can absolutely roast them. We literally just watched it last night. It's a dangerous game to play when you don't have anyone who can come in and be that stopper against the other team's number 1 or number 2.
Yeah, and I think that at least coming back to the soft thing, I think it's fair to call them that. I think that it's not fair for the entire roster, but I would say that the entire makeup, it might be fair. They're 17-13 against playoff teams. That's both in the Eastern Conference and Western Conference. They're 4 games above 500, so that's not massively concerning. But again, you can look at the losses that they do have: Mavericks, Lakers, Celtics, Pelicans, Rockets, Pacers, Rockets, Grizzlies, Lakers, Thunder, Clippers. They've lost their last 3 straight against playoff teams as well. My biggest concern with this team, and I think it comes back to a little bit of that youth issue, but I think it also goes back to the soft issue as well. And it's mainly that backcourt, like you were saying, Dave. Murray, I don't know if he is poised enough yet to step up in a playoff run. Gary Harris has seemed lost in the last just 2 years in general. He has been not the player he was 3 years ago, which is massively concerning, and I wonder where he got lost there. And you mentioned, Jeremy Grant, and I mentioned...
you mentioned Grant. He was fantastic.
Yeah, Paul Millsap, but those guys aren't game changers. So when you look at the actual game changers on this team, I could really only point out Jokic.
Yep.
And you might want to say, and some people might want to say Michael Porter Jr. because they love hype trains. The issue I have with Porter Jr. is I don't think he can step up defensively either for them. And maybe he can, get hot and put up 15 or 17 in a playoff game. But when it comes down to it, he's not going to be out on the floor when games matter unless he truly makes himself stand out and really puts Malone in a crunch. I don't think they have a veteran player in their top 3 that they could go to on a night-in, night-out basis. And you can make the argument for Jokic, but Jokic, I don't think, could lead them back for a comeback. And I think we've seen it before. It was a Sixer game, I think, was one of them. The first Sixer game, I think, and that was the one that pissed off Jake because there should have been a foul call, I think. But they ended up winning by 3. But I don't think they have that ability to truly fight back. I don't know if I've seen that in them consistently enough this year, and I think that in the playoffs you need to show that. And we can look back last year at the Portland series.
I would even look back at the Spurs series too from last year.
I don't really care about you're saying just because they should have beaten them, but
I wasn't going to say just because they should have beaten them, because in both series I was just looking at both of them. The one common denominator is that Denver never won 2 games in a row. And to me, that's something where if you're going to be a team that goes to the finals and has finals expectations, you can't just expect to, if we win game 1, we can trade off and then win a 7-game series. Like, those great teams can go up against a team like the Spurs, who we expected to be an easier opponent, and win 2 games in a row, especially those home games in Denver.
I don't think that really matters to me. And I think that was also this team's first playoff series going up against Greg Popovich. So at least to me, I'm not going to really harp on that Spurs thing too much. That team also were so bad on the road. I think they weren't able to get their footing in that series because, yes, they had back-to-back home games, but I don't think that they were coming off of and able to build off of a great performance in either of those games. And being young, I think that could be chalked up to your first playoff series. But I look more at the Portland Trailblazers series as you saw someone in Damian Lillard who was absolutely possessed. And this was a guy that was determined to take his team deep. He saw an opening, and I don't think that they have somebody that is that possessed and that strong-willed to take them that far. And maybe Jokic has that in him, and we won't see that until the playoffs happen, and he was fantastic last year. But outside of that, it seemed like Portland's entire roster was motivated and pushed and catapulted by Dame's performance. You saw that from Enos Cancer, who looked fantastic. CJ played great. CJ was winning games for them, especially in Denver. I think there was the one game he took over. You could even say Rodney Hood as well. Rodney Hood was fantastic throughout that playoff.
Yeah, surprising comeback year after his disappointing time with the Cavs.
I don't think there is a player on Denver that could truly be motivated and catapulted by even Jokic if he's super motivated.
That's actually a great call.
I don't think they have a team leader, and I think people might make the case for Millsap, but I don't think Millsap is impactful enough. And I think the one thing, too, is, he's on a one-year deal. I don't think he's motivated after this because he might not even be on this team
any longer.
He's making $30 million. Shout out Paul Millsap.
Yeah.
I just don't think there is a guy that is truly a number 2 that they can look at in a playoff series to help Nikola Jokic thrive. And Murray has been very good at points, but Murray is also a very hot and cold player.
Yeah.
And he might get hot, but I don't think it's going to be motivated by anything outside of Jamal Murray getting hot.
Yeah. I think you make a good point about having that locker room leader, that guy who can get everybody fired up, because you look around the rest of the league and you see those guys who bring intensity night in, night out. And I know a Chicago fan, whatever. Jimmy Butler was one of those guys.
I was thinking it too.
Jimmy Butler is one of those guys who he gets the entire team up. You can't win an entire regular season and go into the postseason and feel good about it unless you have someone who can shake the shit out of your team and be like, hey, we need to get this shit going right now. We can't let them keep scoring on us. We can't let them keep doing this. LeBron does the same thing. Giannis does the same thing. Westbrook and Harden both have that same mentality.
Kawhi and Lowry did it.
You look at across the top of the league and you see those guys who are just vocal. The entire team looks to them for direction, and when things need to happen, that's the guy you run through. And I don't know if it's because of the position or it's because of Jokic's nature, but he doesn't seem like that guy
who has
that.
It.
Yeah, he's an amazingly gifted player, but I don't know that he's a leader out there for his team.
Like what Sean said, where you were like, well, maybe we see it from Jokic in the playoffs. No, if you don't have it, you don't have it. You look at, you were talking about that drive, and you were talking about Dame. That's not something that just one day sparked from Dame. We even saw that from him in college when he had that tournament run with Weber State. Kawhi's had it since college. LeBron's had it since before he was in the NBA. Jimmy Butler even had it.
Jimmy Butler's been a grinder since he was in JUCO. Come on.
The thing that I think about that just popped into my head is the Nuggets should look at themselves. And I love that Mike Malone called them soft because this is basically him saying that we don't have that guy, and if you want to be that guy, you got to step up and be that guy.
That's good.
Because I even look at the Grizzlies. Ja Morant, I can see it. He has it. The same thing you're talking about that Dame has. He has that little spark that's going to carry him far through his NBA career. Luka already has it. Luka also has
had it at
the
age
fucking
14.
talent. Yeah,
it ain't fair.
He's a special case.
Yeah.
But I think the Nuggets have to look at the Raptors. And the reason why I say that is the Raptors, I was one of them. I believe we all were on the same page of the Raptors are going to take a step back. I think I had them 5th in the East.
I had them trading everybody.
And they have just
Ricky had them selling everyone at the trade deadline.
Exceeded expectations. But the one thing that they even have that I don't think the Nuggets have is a Kyle Lowry. They don't even have that guy where Kyle Lowry's not that LeBron James, that Kawhi Leonard, that I'm the number one, but he's that vet, kind of like what I think the Nuggets want Paul Millsap to be, to kind of bring the other guys up and make sure that he can lift C-Scam. See what I did there?
Nice call.
Lift Siakam into being the player, just kind of lighting that fire and kind of adding that oxygen to it. They don't even have that on this team.
You need a vocal leader, a floor raiser, someone who plays with intensity, and a veteran. And I think that's the thing. You've got, like you said, Paul Millsap, was the guy on the roster who's supposed to be that guy. It doesn't look like it's working out. It doesn't look like he's able to give them that spark. And it's not to say that, all hope is lost, because it's still a super good team. They're very young, and, they've got a ton of potential for the future. But I do have to question now the trade that they made at the deadline and the results that we're seeing out of Malik Beasley, given the time to run with a starting unit in Minnesota. He's having a phenomenal, I know it's only a series of 8 games, but it's still Yeah, we knew he was good, and last year during his starts he had great shooting splits, pretty efficient, solid scorer, good player, but it looks like he's turned it up another level. Whether it's playing alongside someone like D'Angelo Russell has helped him, the Minnesota offense with the spacing that they've got. But the point is I feel like Denver played it safe and kept the guys they had in the starting unit, and we're like, hey, we know what we've got. We feel like we're good enough as it stands, and we're not going to pay him, and we can move on. And had they switched out pieces in a deal and kept Malik Beasley and given him a chance, I wonder would they be in a different situation.
They clearly made a mistake re-signing Gary Harris. And I think that's where they couldn't really keep Beasley. He was going to be an RFA. They couldn't pay him after giving Gary Harris 4 years, $84 million.
Yeah.
So they made the wrong choice there. And I think they probably knew that, but I also don't think they could have kept Malik Beasley around because, A, they weren't going to pay Gary Harris $84 million and then bench him and then let Beasley walk. So I don't think they were in the right position there. Tim Conley screwed that one up. And the Beasley thing as well, I think he's finally motivated as well because he's on a bad team, so it doesn't really matter. Like if
they're playing with a lot of chutzpah.
They are. And
they're honestly one of the most fun teams to watch over the last 2 weeks.
Credit them, but I don't think that. I think Beasley's also finally a weights off of him, so I think that plays into it as well. I mean, he's playing well. He's also playing for a contract. I'm not going to take that on. He needed to get out of Denver for that to happen.
He's putting up
like
20 points a night.
Helps.
He's again. I'm not bashing his performance. His performance has been great.
Yeah.
But I'm also not saying that's because he wasn't getting the run in Denver. I think Denver knew he was good, and we saw that last year.
Yeah. Well, no, my thought was just like instead of moving on from him, should they have been more motivated to try to find a partner for Gary Harris to move on from that contract that they weren't in love with at this point in time?
Yeah, but who's going to take on Gary Harris for $20 million?
There are teams out there who are moving pieces. I'm just saying there's bad teams with money available, and I don't think it would have been asking too much to move on from him or take a swing at somebody to pair with Jokic to be that number 2 guy.
And everything that we did here was that they were trying to make a play for Drew Holiday.
Yeah.
So, and that clearly didn't work out for them. So I think that we don't know the full ongoings there, but I don't know if it really, I don't think their ideas and their hopes panned out for everything that could happen. Getting back to the Jokic thing, though, because you mentioned something about him not being like the leader and stepping it up like Dame. I disagree with that because we saw last year in the playoffs that he was fantastic. He was literally their best player, and it wasn't even close. I just don't know if he's a guy in a position yet because that was his first playoff run. And I think that he also needed a kick in the ass, and we saw that. I think it was like after 19 games. Mike Malone said something about him needing to step it up, and after he said that, in the past 40 games, 56% from the field, 38% from three, 24 points per game, 10 boards, 7 assists.
That's because somebody needs some time to get his conditioning right.
Well,
because he came to the league weighing 300 pounds this year.
That and I think he also
goes to the fire under your ass kind of a situation.
Yeah, and then he's been an MVP candidate outside of that.
Yeah.
So I mean, I think that Jokic is somebody that maybe he's not an extremely motivated person, but when he is, I think that players will respond to that, and he is a guy that can clearly make an impact. I just don't think he has somebody that can be that guy that, on this team alongside of him.
Yeah.
At least in the top 3, like a Jamal Murray. Just use him as an example. I don't think Jamal Murray is able to say rally the troops and also get him motivated, because a big part of what makes Dame work is having Nurkic, who is super vocal and fiery as a center to
incredibly
help him along.
There.
I mean, he was their muscle last year. CJ as well. He's a guy that is just a perfect pairing next to him. I don't think Jimmy Butler would work if he didn't have Eric Spoelstra as coach, and then the idea of having all these other guys like Kendrick Nunn, who worked his ass off to get in the NBA alongside of him. You need the people that, if I go, we go. Yeah. I don't think there's any of the we in there. I think that Jokic is able to step up on a nightly basis, but I don't think anyone else is motivated on that team, and maybe that speaks to Jokic as a leader, but I also think that there needs to be some part of those people that are like, all right, we're fucking going. We need to, pick up our part at the end. I don't know if anybody has that in them to at least notice that, all right, this is our time to step up, or the people that don't have the ability to, a.k.a. Paul Millsap. I don't think Paul Millsap has the ability to be like, all right, cool, I'm dropping 25 tonight.
I do question, on top of that, is Mike Malone's motivation to the locker room? You know, how long can the players hear the same words? And like when you're winning as many games as they have been for the last 2 years, it's hard to be like, yep, we need to fix our shit. We need, whatever. It's like, yeah, you're a very good regular season team, but that's all you'll ever be until that message sinks in and something changes in them. And I wonder, that pairing, you mentioned having Spoelstra there with Jimmy. It's the combination of, you have the guy in the locker room, you have the coach, they've got the same mentality, the same vision for how this team's going to succeed. And I wonder, is this partly because Mike Malone as a head coach might have, I'm trying to think of the right way to describe it, but like his way of coaching, what he puts into the locker room, what he puts out there as like, this is how we're going to win games, might not vibe well with everybody on that team.
See, I don't know about that because we didn't have that problem last year with them. Like,
last year we wrote them off as they're too young, so it doesn't matter whatever they do in the playoffs.
That again, like Kingy said in the Twitch chat, where it's like, oh, they just need more playoff experience.
Yeah,
I can't wait until we get to the point where we can stop you. Like, I see that as an excuse, and I see it as an excuse because I use shit like that when I talk about the Bulls to write off problems with our own team at times. So like with another team, I can see it and just be like, that's an excuse.
Well, no, I think last year it was absolutely fair. But if they get bounced in the first round this year, it's not an excuse.
And that's what I want to bring in, because Sam asked the question, if Denver gets bounced in the first round, should they consider making a big trade to upgrade their current roster? What does that even look like, though?
Well, I think they should. I think they should be looking at this already. This should be a thing that even if they don't lose in the first round, I mean, I think they were already looking at this.
Because if they lose in the first round, it's obviously a step back from last year, and then it's like, what? They just need more playoff experience. Yeah, but we did worse this year than we did last year.
I don't think that's going to be the narrative. If they lose in the first round this year, that's a disappointment. Last year was the first time this team, led by a 24-year-old Nikola Jokic, a 21-year-old Jamal Murray, was ever stepping into the playoffs. The only person on that team with playoff experience last year was Paul Millsap, saying that this team needs playoff experience. Mike Malone didn't even have playoff experience as a head coach. Saying that this team needed playoff experience was the absolute truth. You need to be able to go in and see what that's like, to step in and see what the NBA playoffs are actually like, because that's an absolute different monster. And the first taste that you got of it was Greg Popovich. They didn't deal with it great, but they got through it. And that's something that's great. And you see that a team like Terry Stotts and Damian Lillard, who's been in the playoffs since 2010, they handed it to him, right? Those guys have playoff experience now. If they go out and lose to, especially this Dallas Mavericks team, who's coached by a great coach in Rick Carlisle, who has a title, but also you're going up against KP, who doesn't have playoff experience, and Luka Doncic, who doesn't have playoff experience, and you get bounced, that's a fucking issue. All right? So nobody, that is an issue.
No. The only thing I kind of go about is the Luka part, because although he has never been in the NBA playoffs,
it's a different monster.
Like, I have been the one that throughout the entire draft process for Luka was writing him back. Oh, he's played so well overseas. Mario Hezonja 2.0. He hasn't played in the NBA. And he might be a different monster to where KP one I look at and I go, yes, he doesn't have playoff experience. But like Luka, I don't expect it being his first playoffs to hold him back because of how special he's been all year.
You're reading what I'm saying wrong. I'm not saying that he's going to struggle because it's first time in the playoffs. I'm just saying if you're going in against a team that has their two stars, zero playoff experience, and you lose, that's an issue.
Yep.
I don't care whether it's, Jesus, like LeBron James in his first playoff. It's LeBron James, I get it, but LeBron James should struggle in his first playoffs, right? Like that should be something that is a new test that you're walking into for the first time, and you have to play this team 7 straight times in a row.
Yep.
That should be an issue to any NBA player, and if it's not, that shows greatness. All right, and if you're going in your third playoff series, and you go and lose to somebody with that, and you get your doors blown off by 2 guys with 0 playoff experience, that's a fucking issue. I don't care if you're going up against LeBron James or Michael Jordan. Right? I think Michael in his first playoff experience dropped 63. Guess what? He still lost that playoff series because he was going up against the fucking Celtics. So, like that, if you go in the Nuggets and they lose to the Mavericks in the first round, that's a fucking issue.
Yeah, LeBron, but to bring in the LeBron example, his first playoffs, he averaged 30 points.
Shocker.
Beat the Wizards in 6 games.
All right.
and then in 7 games lost in that thrilling series against that Pistons team.
Yeah.
That was like a finals perennial.
And who was even on that Wizards team? That Wizards team I think was ass.
Let's see.
I think that was probably
Wizards
Arenas
team,
with no playoff experience.
You had Arenas, Chucky Atkins,
Yeah.
Blanche,
Yeah.
Calvin Booth, Karan Butler.
So what we could say is
Jarvis
a
Hayes,
team that was not as good as
Antoine Jameson,
a team that was not as good
Brennan
as this
Halo,
Denver Nuggets
Jared
team.
Jeffries.
Yeah.
So
No, they weren't.
What I'm taking with this team was not as good as this Nuggets team. No. So I think that my whole point, and we'll wrap this up.
Mm-hmm.
This team needs somebody that could be a leader for them, and I think they already knew that. I think that's why they were looking at Drew Holiday in the trade market. So if this team loses in the first round, they are absolutely going to look for something to change this team. That means Gary Harris is going to move. They're going to free up $30 million with Paul Millsap. I think Michael Porter Jr. starts to get a look in the starting lineup. I think they probably try to keep Jeremy Grant back, but I think the people that are going to be safe are Jokic, Murray, and Porter. Outside of that, anyone else is expendable.
Bobo.
He's not on the roster.
He's on the Windy City Bulls.
Technically
He's
under
technically
contract.
not on the roster. And
under
hasn't played an
contract.
NBA game, so
Doesn't
I'm
matter.
not counting him.
Under
He
contract.
is.
You know who
he
they're
is
gonna go
in
after,
the G
though?
League.
Like, if you want to say who they should
Like
go
a
after,
trade target.
like this offseason, I mean, you look across to the team they played last year in the San Antonio Spurs. You go, you want playoff experience? DeMar DeRozan.
DeMar DeRozan.
Think about it.
I think they need a ball handler, like
That's-
somebody who
He is
either
literally
a
the
point
perfect
guard
guy
or
to put next to them. They have amazing spacing already. They've got guys who are able to take shots, guys who can get red hot like Murray. They've got an offense that moves through a center. You add in someone with the playoff experience of DeMar DeRozan. I can't see that as a detriment. And then contract-wise, it seems to be the right kind of fit.
He
The
will
only
be
question.
he'll be a free agent. No,
if he opts out.
He'll probably be one of the top free agents this year if he does opt out. So I think it'd be smart if he did. Take advantage of the money that will be out there.
$27 million contract going into next season as a player op if he decides to opt out to try to cash in on a final big deal because he is going to be 31 next year.
I think you could see a thing where it's like, all right, hey, give me $27 million my first year, so I'm not losing it, and we'll front load it or some shit like that.
Yeah, if they could go 30, 29, 28 or something like that.
I think
be interesting.
I think DeRozan would be smart to opt out because he'd be a top.
Yeah, he
player
should be
in
able
this
to get
market.
multiple years.
The issue with that though is you talked about defense.
Yeah.
I don't think that Jamal Murray and DeMar DeRozan is playoff defense.
I don't disagree with you there.
You know who they should go after?
Whom?
Chris Paul.
Chris Paul.
Is he going to be available though? That's I almost said that name because
yeah.
I was almost like, well, Shea's the
I already
future.
said
and,
it. The trade deadline. They should go after Danilo and Chris Paul, but they didn't.
No.
What were you going to
Like-
say about Chris Paul? Though?
I was thinking in my head, I almost threw out his name because it's like Shea's the future, but they're doing so well this year. Chris Paul has helped that team. Like, will the Thunder want to move on from him, or will they be like, he's good for this team? We can be a playoff team while still building this young team.
Here's
They've got
the thing.
Danilo, who's going to be an unrestricted free agent this year because
Right.
they didn't trade him. Are they going to bring him back? What are they going to do with him? Like, that's where I'm like,
The Chris Paul thing is interesting purely because if he does not get hurt for the rest of this season and continues to play the way he is, they could potentially sell high on Chris Paul and flip him for more assets. Which, if you've ever heard of what the Oklahoma City Thunder do with assets, this is a team that just loves to roll the dice in the draft and getting more assets back for what was at one point the worst contract in the NBA. Like, okay, I made money by trading Russell Westbrook for Chris Paul, and now you're telling me I can flip Chris Paul for even more assets?
Yeah.
Like, it's the most Sam Presti thing you could possibly do.
I
But
think
at the same time, I love the idea of Chris Paul as a mentor to Shea, and I wonder if 1 year is enough time for that to, Shea to transition into being a leader.
I think you could find a different mentor. I think that it'd be more important to cash in on those assets right away. I think they'd be making a mistake not to.
Yeah, I mean...
Also, Retro asked about Monte Morris. Doesn't say. I think he does. I mean, he's non-guaranteed for I think 1.5 mil, so there's no reason not to keep him. But I'm talking about core pieces. Like Monte Morris, I don't think is ever he's a very good player. I just don't think he's ever going to be an impact player on any team. He might be in a starting lineup on a bad team.
He holds the bench unit really well.
Yeah, he's a very solid player that will be in the NBA a long time. I just don't think his ceiling is that high enough. That's why I didn't mention him. Where Porter Jr.'s, Jokic, Murray's ceilings are very high.
The only other two names on top of CP3 and maybe DeMar that I would see them going to if they like get bounced in the first round or anything.
Gordon.
The first one I'm going to throw out there. Well,
I
Gordon,
almost did that one.
I didn't think about Gordon Hayward.
I
That would be
almost
so 3. One, I'm just going to throw out there, although it's not going to happen. Ready? Zach LaVine.
Ugh.
That's the only one, just because of he would be the lowest tier of the names, but he is a guy that has drive and can add that, not that it factor that Dame has, but that drive that this team doesn't have.
Time
the
out.
other one,
Time out. Are we talking about the Bulls on the Superfans?
Yes.
Okay, what are we talking about?
We're talking about draft, Obi Toppin.
Oh, okay. Can I go on a Zach LaVine rant here then?
Sure.
Okay, I'm kind of getting sick of Zach LaVine because every time post game when they lose, and this is a little bit different because they won their last game, so now everyone's all happy because Kobe White's the future.
He is the
Oh,
future,
great!
but
You
go
saw
ahead.
3 games. Congratulations.
We'll get
Every
into it.
fucking loss that happens, they go to Zach LaVine and everyone's like, "Oh, he's so mature. He's so great at answering questions." But he's just sitting there looking all depressed and sad and
depressed too.
heartbroken. Oh, I'm Zach LaVine. Show some fucking nuts. Nut up and be pissed off for once. I don't see Zach
he
LaVine
not
truly
pissed
being
off
a
in that
leader.
one game?
And this is
On the court, he is.
on the
He
court,
leaves
is,
it
and he's
hashtag
swearing
on the
he's-
court.
and he's swearing at refs and being like, "I have 40 fucking
And at his
points."
coach.
And
his coach.
Well, no,
and his coach.
That was at the ref. The 40 fucking points. That was at the ref.
No, the timeout shit, though.
Yeah.
But he's rolling his eyes. Get fucking mad. Like, here's the thing, and Pat Bev said this at the All-Star break on the Woj Pod. Woj Pod. He said, if I was on this team,
Yep.
I'd lead this team to the playoffs. Because there's not a player in this locker room that would step up and man up. There isn't a player on this in that Bulls locker room that's going to fucking stand up and be a leader. Zach LaVine is not that. Zach LaVine is a great player if you're looking at the stats, but this guy is not a leader, and he's so fucking whiny.
Can I say one thing and retort before I go on to the other player?
I'll
Yeah.
allow it.
Is two things.
Boy,
A,
I'm gonna sip my
you
Dunkin'
would,
iced
you would,
coffee.
You would be depressed
call
too
of
if
an
you had to play
NBA
for this
player
Bulls
whiny.
team.
It's
And-
fine being upset and
number
sad, but he's
two-
just so...
And number 2, I just look at it the same way I am as a Bulls fan. Zach's just defeated. How many player-only meetings can you have, and how many player-only discussions can you lead up against the head coach before you go? It's just
He's
it's
acting
futile.
like he's
It's
powerless, but
useless.
he's not
He
realizing.
is powerless.
No, he's
That's
not.
what I feel.
You are
like.
in the NBA. How many times do we say this is a players' league? If it's a players' league, you
For
should go out
everyone
and be.
but the Bulls.
You should go out and be demanding. You should go out and be a leader. You should go out and be more vocal than, "Oh man, I'm not the coach. Oh man, I'm not the GM. I just play." Well, guess what? If you're a player and you want to be a leader, go out and lead. Don't bitch and whine.
So my other player,
I see both sides of this.
Yeah.
I do have to say that as much as I love Zach, I wish that he
would
was
step up,
more
yeah.
of a leader for this team.
Yes.
I mean,
and-
I would love to see it, but I could see why he
Because our coach
is the way
is
he
such
is.
an
and our front
overbearing
office ain't going to get old.
idiot.
Okay,
ass.
but
Our
if-
front
if-
office
if-
ain't going to fire him.
But you know what? It would send a massive message to the front office and to
if your best player
Jerry
just-
Reinsdorf is if Zach LaVine, after
Yeah.
dropping 40 points, losing to the goddamn Suns, came out and said, "This guy is a moron."
Yep.
And we need a true leader in this locker room. And I'm sick of losing.
agree with
And
that.
I'm sick of doing this. He should do it then. He
I
shouldn't
agree.
be like, "Oh,
No,
I'm not
I
the coach.
can't
I'm not the
disagree with that.
GM."
Has
If you are
any-
sick of this, then stand up.
Has any player ever done that you can think of in like recent history?
No.
Yeah, it's not a good look as a player.
Yeah.
It's not, but whatever.
I don't think anyone's going to argue with him, but I mean, like, shit, even with Fizdale doing Fizdale things.
LeBron kind of did it, but he did it so like low key. Like he does it so like under the cuff sometimes. It was when the David Blatt stuff I'm thinking about when they'd ask him questions and he wouldn't come out and say it, but like we would go ahead and say, "Yeah, I know what you're talking about, LeBron."
Yeah, well, LeBron's the king of doing
you
that
sort
shit,
of have,
but like never.
a little bit of favor to throw when you're also LeBron James being the best player
Yeah.
in the NBA at the time. So, I mean, Zach LaVine
Like
doing it as a
that's
king of the
something
bottom
I don't even
dwellers.
think we've seen.
LeBron's also LeBron back in the day in Cleveland was literally
Yeah.
their whole economy.
Yeah.
So like he could just do that on the side and the ownership would listen to him.
I also feel, and this is a little off topic, I'll say it anyways. I don't think we've ever seen something like that since like 90s basketball where somebody spoke up, like, or was that outspoken about
I
their
feel
coach
like
or something.
I feel like there were a lot of comments, but because of the media coverage we have today,
Yeah.
versus then,
It's-
like
we
we probably
didn't
just
have
didn't
Twitter
hear it.
and stuff,
Just at a national level, you know, I'm sure that like
Locally.
locally there was probably some shit said
Yeah.
to some local reporters that just never made it here.
But the last
Second
guy
player.
I was going to bring up, Retro, kind of stole my thunder.
Yep.
Bradley Beal. I know that we were going to say, like, oh, should we talk about the Wizards? And Sean was like, I don't want to talk about Bradley Beal getting traded again because we did that all last year.
Yep.
But if the Nuggets get bounced, like, And if they're not going to make a CP3 trade, they're not going to go DeMar DeRozan. Bradley Beal, bring in one of the alphas from Washington because Bradley Beal would come in, score 75 points, and I'll tell you what, the Nuggets ain't going to lose that game. Like, I mean, come on. Like, he would probably be, I would say, in my wish list, if I was a Nugget fan, if they get bounced in the first round, I'd put Bradley Beal at 1, CP3 at 2, DeMar DeRozan at 3. But, like, really, what are your options besides them? Like, Zach LaVine and Gordon Hayward would probably be the only other 2.
This is from New York Daily News. Player and coaches feuds. 2 of them are Stephon Marbury and 2 of them are Darren Williams.
Yeah, so great company.
AI is one of them.
AI was one I was going to say, but I was like, I know that man said shit about everybody. So it doesn't like, coach, sure, throw him under the bus. We talking practice?
Oh, Dwight and Stan Van. Mm-hmm. And then Latrell Sprewell.
Well, he choked
his coach.
Yeah, well, they list that. So
Ron Artest said some shit too.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's not a great image for you, and you know the guys who are leading the path.
Well, I don't know. I'm just... I think
I get what you're trying to say.
I think he could be more vocal, at least to these players. Or I think it's a better look to call out other players then, which may divide the locker room, but also you're the most important asset on this team.
I get you.
So, I don't know. That's just my frustration. Because I don't think he's the right ad. I think Beal is, though.
Yeah, Retro asked, would it cost Murray to get Beal, though?
No, but it would cost Porter, Bull, and multiple picks.
You think the Wizards would want Bull?
Yeah, why not?
Okay.
Washington Bullets?
Good point.
You know, his daddy played there.
The Washington Bullets.
It would cost Murray for sure.
I think they could do it for Porter, Bull, and like 3 firsts or 4 firsts.
Who do you think is more valuable to them? Porter or Murray?
To the Nuggets, it depends on the team who's trading them. That's why it depends on their timeline. Because Murray's already locked up under a long-term contract. He's going to get paid, so you have to have that room to account for that. Mm-hmm. Meanwhile, Porter is on, the end of his year 2 of his rookie deal. And if you continue to bring him along slowly, you might be able to eke out like a mid-range, like an upper mid-range contract out of him. And if he continues to play well and his medicals,
I mean the thing is you're upgrading that guard position.
Yeah.
If you trade Murray for Beal.
True.
So and then you just I would rather trade Murray.
Yeah, I think the thing is we don't know the medicals on Porter, and like who knows if he steps on like a crack tomorrow and like his back gets all fucking wonky again.
It's also everybody.
Mm-hmm. It's more likely to happen to a person who's had multiple surgeries on his back, and has a family history of having the worst ACLs in the existence of sports.
I think you can make an argument.
So I can see why Murray's more valuable, even though we might want to hype up Porter's top end, upside.
Murray is more valuable, so I think it would be smarter long run. So you don't have to give him up more assets, and also then at that point you're at least planning out that contract space that's going to be taken up by Beal. With
that's
Murray.
An easier flip, yes.
So I think Murray might be more appealing to them because you at least get somebody who isn't health. Yeah, you
could drop Murray next to Jamal.
Worries with Porter when you also have John Wall you're dealing with.
Yeah, you could drop Murray next to John Wall and not even worry because he basically plays like a shooting guard half the time anyway.
Yeah, so. And the thing too is Beal off ball of Jokic. Sign me up.
Yeah, and you know what? If he's winning games, he'll play defense again. Mm-hmm. Like, people forget the fact that Bradley Beal last year was one of the best 2-way players in the NBA.
Yeah.
And this year it was like, oh, so we're just rolling out shit this year. You just play all the offense, none of the defense. Yeah, I can do that.
Yeah, it is funny though. He's never had a positive defensive box score plus minus. Mm-hmm. He's had 2. 0.2 and 0.2.
There you go.
Rookie year and his 3rd year.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I mean his defensive win shares have been fairly solid for throughout his entire career.
Yeah, I think
especially on a team that's more of a unit, I think he would be great.
I think it's a matter of time for the Nuggets because I don't know that Murray will be able to cement himself as a consistent number 2 and a guy to fire off the locker room. So I think they are going to be looking to make a change this offseason. I don't know that they're going to find somebody in the draft who's going to have that ability to walk into a team and make a statement.
I don't even think they have their pick. Didn't they trade it in the Jeremy Grant trade?
You may be right.
I think they gave it to OKC.
You may be right. So yeah. So they basically are just in a position where they have to make a move in free agency with that money from Millsap leaving, and it'll be interesting to see.
Yeah. Let us know what you think about the Nuggets down in the comments below. Are they too soft? I think that it's yet to be seen. I would like to see how they respond to this.
Yeah, let's get them in the playoffs. Let's watch them play a series and see what happens. God forbid if they get put up against I mean, honestly, in the playoff
What's their worst
is-
matchup?
I mean, did we just watch it?
Do you think it is the Clippers?
I mean,
the
anyone
Clippers
has a good matchup against
we're
the
not going to
Clippers.
see that first round.
Yeah. So first round, with the way the seedings are set, with Denver, if they flop down to 3, they go up against the Thunder. Not necessarily
their
terrible.
possible matchups are Utah, OKC, Dallas.
Yeah.
Because I don't think they're going to be the 1 seed, right? And I don't think anybody else. I don't think the Memphis or
No.
New Orleans is going to jump to 7. So
No.
it's either Dallas, OKC, or Utah. And I doubt they're going to fall to 5. You think you can fall to 5?
No, I don't.
Okay, so they're going to be either 2, 3, or 4.
Yep.
They're either going to play Utah, OKC, or Houston. Rank those 4.
I mean, Houston's my nightmare for every team because Houston.
It's hilarious what they're doing.
It's amazing. The Jazz are so hit and miss, but I feel like that matchup isn't awful for the Nuggets. I think I'd be more afraid of...
Because the Nuggets have played the Jazz well from what I can recall. Jokic has been doing very well against Gobert.
I think I would be most afraid of a team like the Dallas Mavericks. Maybe I'm just homerism on this shit, but I think KP just creates problems, and they've got such a great supporting cast down there.
Out of the 2 games they've played so far, the game they won is when KP wasn't playing.
Yeah, so I would say Dallas is my number 2 feared team, OKC at 3, the Jazz at 4. So yeah, Rockets, Dallas, OKC, Jazz.
Yeah, and they got 2 more games against Dallas, March 11th and April 13th.
Nice.
Rank those 4 for me, Ricky.
The bottom 4,
Houston, Jazz, Thunder, Mavs.
I would say Houston number 1 just because they've got the talent. Mavs at number 2, and then Thunder, Jazz, Thunder. Flip them however you want. Like those bottom 2, I feel like the Thunder wouldn't be that bad, but like, what are we going to see from a CP3 in the playoff? And the Jazz this year, if Donovan Mitchell turns it on, could cause problems for them. So like. Those 2 you can interchange, but it's Rockets, and I'd say the Mavericks are going to be a problem for them in that matchup that I hope we see in the first round.
Because the Rockets are better than their record. It's just they've had injuries. You're dealing with Luka missing chunks of time because of his ankle, and then KP missing chunks of time, and KP's finally looking like...
You said Mavericks, right?
Yeah.
Okay. I want to... In my head, I'm like, did he say Rockets?
I heard Rockets.
I meant to say Mavericks.
That's why.
but they're better than the record.
If you start talking about Luka and KP,
people
know
figure
what
it
you
fucking
meant.
out.
Yeah.
My point is, they're better than the record is. And the fact that we're now seeing the real KP back
Well, they were a top
consistently-
3 team when they were healthy.
Yeah, so I think they're going to continue to elevate their play. So anybody who gets matched up against them in the playoffs, unlucky.
Yeah, right now they are 2-0 against the Jazz, 106-100, and then 98-95. They have 2 more games against the Jazz. Like Ricky said, they're 1-1 against the Mavericks. They have 2 more games coming up against them. I believe they're also 1-1 against the Thunder, a 113-101 loss and a 110-102 win. They also have 2 more games against the Thunder, and then I think against the Rockets they are 2-0. Let me check. 1 loss, 103-104. Yikes! And then 1 win. And yeah, so they're 2-2 against the Rockets. So a 117-110 win.
That was with Capella and no Harden.
121-105 loss, a 130-104 loss, and a 105-95 loss. And I think that was all before they went small. So I would say, and even this is outside of the record, I think that the matchup that would give them the most problems is just going up against Harden.
Yeah.
I think that would absolutely kill them. You're stretching the floor out. They don't have a rim protector, the Nuggets, but I also don't think that they have the ability to go up against with that speed. They like playing slower. I think that would fuck them. So I'd put the Rockets at 1. I would put the Mavs at 2, Thunder at 3, Jazz at 4.
Yeah, we've all got the same idea on why it's going to be a problem for them. So
it's pace that I think ends up hurting them, which is weird because they can play fairly fast. I mean, I just think that the fact that it's going to come down to guard play. Yep. And while Mitchell is very good, we haven't seen Conley be consistent. Their best guard at points has been Joe Ingles when he's been coming off the bench. Royce O'Neal can play solid defense, but I don't think he's a game changer, at least offensively. I think they could truly slow them down, and then it's just a matchup between Gobert and Jokic, and we've seen Gobert in the playoffs, and Jokic is just so dynamic that I think he can end up beating them. So that's why I put the Jazz last, but everything else, like, it could be, a very close, round one series for the Nuggets, and I find it tough for them to beat any LA team. So let us know what you think down in the comments below for the Nuggets.